All right. Okay. Well, today is going to be a good class. So today we're talking about helping people build wealth through real estate. Any of you guys want to do that?
Yes, I do.
Let's do that, right? We want to build wealth through real estate, and we want to help other people build wealth through real estate. So, no, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so we are going to go through some stuff. You're more than welcome to just hop in and ask any questions that you've got. We're going to go through some good stuff as far as just what is the conversation that we're going to have with these people. What are we going to talk to them about? What kind of questions are we going to ask to make sure that we can lead and guide them? So we get questions all the time. How do we deal with investing clients and how can we add value to them? So we're mostly going to be focusing on, okay, what does that listing or what does that buyer consultation sound like when you are meeting with them and they are interested in investing in real estate? So first off, there's several benefits to owning real estate. Do any of you guys know what those would be? Like, what are the benefits of owning real estate? There are, like, sometimes I say 4, sometimes I say 5. I'm going to go with 5 today.
Well, building is not too large.
That's pretty large, yeah. Like, think of it as like streams of income or streams of wealth.
Appreciation,
Appreciation, yep.
cash flow.
Tax advantages.
Cash flow, tax advantages. And then this one is the one that I think can go either way. Principal reduction and or forced savings. So those two, but I kind of think they're one and the same, to be honest. So maybe I'm a 4 guy today.
There's someone else paying a mortgage and alternatives for that, right? That's the principal reduction.
Totally. Yep. Yep, exactly. So those are kind of the big ones. So we'll go into a little bit more of, where you can find these different streams of income or streams of wealth. But let's go through them first really quick. So cash flow. What is cash flow? What do you think cash flow looks like when you're owning real estate? Jesse looks like he's just dying to tell us.
I was just waiting for anyone else to answer before I jumped in.
Oh, okay. All right, it's all yours.
I'll jump in. Cash flow. Basically, if you own an investment property, you rent it out for $1,800, and your mortgage is $1,500. You're cash flowing $300 a month. That's you're making money off the property. That's additional to your mortgage.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. So cash flow is like income, basically. So whatever your expenses are, you take that out of whatever your gross rent is, and then or your gross income, and then you end up with your cash flow. So hopefully on all these investments that we're going to be talking to people about, they're going to be making a great cash flow, which is going to put money in their pockets. And that's not always how it is. There's a lot of different reasons why people buy real estate. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So cash flow. Appreciation is the next one. What is appreciation?
Something that goes up in value, appreciates with over time.
Nice. Yep. Yep. So that's some sort of asset going up in value. In this case, real estate going up in value to basically bring additional wealth to you, right? So, yep, appreciation is a big one. Principal reduction. Principal reduction. Anyone want to explain what that is?
You have an amortized loan, it make your standard payments, principal goes down.
Yep.
Your mortgage each year.
Yep. So your mortgage payments. So assuming that you've got a loan on it, your mortgage payments are going to be made up of, primarily 2 things, principal and interest. So there's a chunk that goes to pay off the balance, right? And there's a chunk that goes to pay your interest. So, and there's also other things, as you know, but basically that principal amount is just going to pay off your mortgage. So your mortgage is just going down and down as the home is actually going up in value. So it's really cool that you can, you now owe less on a property that's worth more. So that's super nice. Okay, and then forced savings. I think forced savings is kind of similar to that, where it's basically, you're putting this money to pay off that loan because you have to. Like you signed yourself up for that house. Now you have to be paying a certain amount to pay that down. So it's forced savings on a investment, an investment only situation. Um, maybe that makes a lot of sense, maybe it doesn't. On a personal residence, it probably makes more because they've got to make that payment every month, and they're also paying down their um, balance, which is definitely a type of forced savings. And when we say forced savings, it basically means like it's money that maybe they would or would not have saved if it wasn't for this house. Like if they just had that money show up in their bank account, they didn't have to send it anywhere else, they might have spent it, right? But instead, they actually saved it. It went towards their wealth. So, and then the last one is tax benefits. We're not going to go through all of it, mostly because I'm not a huge pro on all of it. We went to a class a while ago that blew our minds, right? With Peter Chabris from Denver or something like that. And it was really cool. There's actually some really cool tax advantages. I would personally say, and I'm interested to hear whatever you guys think. I think it's slightly for on a personal home, day to day or year to year. There's not quite as big of a benefit as there once was, just because, we all have kind of a standard deduction. Um, the standard deduction is much higher now than it used to be. So a lot of people aren't itemizing their deductions for their personal taxes. So I don't see that as much. However, there are some really good tax benefits to owning real estate. There's two different ways that you can protect yourself from taxes. So aside from just writing off your interest or something on your home loan, there's two ways. When you actually go to sell it, it's protected in two different ways. So, and this is something that people confuse all the time. So if it's an investment property, you can do a 1031 exchange, right? So anyone feel super confident on 1031 exchange that they're willing to explain it? I bet yeah, we've got like the pro here, and they're not going to be able to hear you very good, probably. All right. Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. So 1031 exchange is where you don't want to pay taxes on your capital gains. So you transfer the proceeds to a like kind property. And so then you in a sense just pass that payment you're going to pay to the taxes down the road. I personally did this a couple years ago where I had a duplex with a buddy, and he kind of forced me to sell because no, my friend kind of forced me to sell. So we sold the property, and he took his money and did what he wanted to do, and then I took mine and I 1031 over to another rental property. So then I didn't pay taxes, which was great. So I've done that actually a couple of times. So I'm just passing that appreciation, that funds that I gained over the several years to a new property that had a larger down payment.
Love it.
So yeah, so the key is like kind, right? So there are certain 1031 companies that are a little bit more hands-on, and some are not as hands-on, but usually it's investment for investment property usually works out.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of things that are like, I thought it was very specific, but it does seem like it doesn't have to be a super similar property. It's got to be an investment piece of real estate, and you're pretty good. So, I mean, check with your people and everything, but I think in real estate school, they made it seem like, okay, if it's a single family home, it's got to go to a single family home. Or if it's a duplex, it can maybe go to a fourplex, but it can't go to an apartment complex. And my understanding since then is really, if it's an a piece of investment real estate, you're pretty much good. So is that pretty much your?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Cool. So that is the one for investors. So if you've got someone who owns a rental property or some sort of investment property, and then they want to buy something else, they can sell that one, buy the new one, and they're actually not getting it's not that they're not paying taxes, it's just that they're deferring taxes, right? So they're kind of accruing a tax balance And then obviously the goal is, depending on how tax laws go, that basically when you pass, you can transfer it through, through your estate without a huge tax, which that's always, getting tossed around whether they're going to tax, at the end of your life. But anyway, so that's for investment property, only for investment property. If they live in the property and it's their primary residence, it's a whole different game. So that's one thing that I do think people get pretty confused with investing and with taxes, is that if you have a personal home, the rules are different. So if you have a personal home, you actually are exempt from taxes on the proceeds of the sale, as long as they don't exceed your limit, which if you're single, it's a $250,000 limit. And if you're married, it's a $500,000 limit. So that's a little bit different. What was I going to say? Oh, so it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit different in that sense, but basically, as long as you didn't make more than that, you're good to go. And one thing that's also easily confused is some people think that that money has to go to a new house. Like you make $250,000 on the sale and you have to put that towards your new house or you'll get taxed. But you can probably see how they get confused between 1031 and your primary residence exemption. So that money that you make doesn't have to go into your house. I know Jesse knows that because they really practice holistic mortgage planning is what they call it. And it's basically saying, hey, you don't have to use all of that and roll it into a new house. Maybe you just roll a chunk of that into a new house. And then you have another big chunk. Maybe you can buy another investment property, or you can, pay off debt or do whatever you want with it. So that's a pretty common misconception.
Exactly,
Any
Nick, you
comments
nailed
or,
it.
oh, I got it.
Yep, I just said, perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. I'm actually going to switch computers real quick. So 1 second. Oh, for sure. Okay. All right. We're back and I don't want you to miss out on seeing me on camera. So, okay. So any questions on that? I know it can be a little confusing especially with the taxes piece. But that's any other questions or comments on that?
Nick, I do have a question. So let's say if you have a rental property, right, and you not want to pay the capital gains, but you also don't want to buy investment property, I believe you have ability to move back into your rental property, live there for 1 year, right? And able to sell it as a private home,
Kind
right?
of. My understanding is that would be 2 years.
Is
Two
it
out of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So
2 out of the last 5. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
So when you go to closing, there's a form, or maybe before closing, I don't know, but there's a form that basically decides whether the title company is going to send in a 1099 for you. And so if you have lived in it for the last two of the last 5 years, which like you might qualify for. I don't know if you're asking for you personally, but I don't know exactly what your timeline is. But even if it was a few years back, it would be okay as long as it's 2 out of 5 years. Cool. Oh yeah, you're fine. Yep. Cool. Okay. And then I'm not going to go into it too much. I will say there's depreciation is a tax benefit, that you can depreciate your assets as you go. That's I mean, you can do that with houses, you can do that with cars. Cars depreciate a lot faster, but, you can depreciate your real estate, and there's a million ways. And we went to a class if you're interested in it. I do think there's value because you could show your clients how, like, you could help them deal with their real estate portfolios better if you could help them depreciate their assets better, because you can do these studies and you can kind of move the values around and then depreciate certain things at a faster rate than what the federal government usually allows. So anyways, if you're interested in that, check out some classes like that, or we can point you in the direction of them. We're not going to go way deep here. Okay. So, all right. So now we know how we can make money through real estate. So there's 4 to 5 different things depending on how you count. And so it's really important to know that people want to invest in real estate for different things. So people all are looking for different things. And that's the most important thing. When you go to a buyer consultation, it's important that you sit down with them. And especially if it's for an investor, you're going to ask, hey, tell me why, like, why do you want to invest anyways? Do you already invest? If you do, why do you want to invest more? What's your motivation here? What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? So by doing that, you're going to find out that they have different answers. So that's one thing that's probably the biggest part that people skip is they don't ask why they want to invest in real estate, which really doesn't give you a whole lot to go on because, I mean, yeah, we all think real estate investing is good. So you're not saying, hey, I don't think you should be investing in real estate. You're just genuinely asking, tell me why, like, what would you like to get out of this? And then you'll get all different answers. You'll get all different answers. So they might say, oh, I want some cash flow. They might say, oh, I'm looking to just build my wealth long term, transfer that to my kids. Or there's all different things they could come up with. So what I want to show you real quick is what the different types of real estate investing would be and what that might look like. So let's start with the flip. So why do you think people do flips? Like, what's the benefit of doing a flip? What are they going to get out of it?
Headaches.
Headaches, yes.
I think you can get the money out of the house a little bit quicker than some of the other options that we've
Totally.
been talking about.
Totally. Really, a flip is going to produce cash, right? It's going to produce income. It's almost like, I mean, it's a whole lot like a job. You're going to, or a business at least, where you're going to buy a place, you're going to put a bunch of time and effort into it, and then you're going to sell it and make a difference, right? Make the difference. So flip is really going to help you get cash. So if you're looking to have increased income to bring in additional cash flow, then a flip is a really great option.
So with,
Yeah,
with though, you gotta realize that you're going.
gotta unmute.
You're gonna be taxed, right? Unless you roll that, which most likely flippers do not roll the profit. So just give you a notice on that you will be taxed on that.
Totally.
And how much, talk to your accountant, but that is definitely.
Okay, so if you do a flip, yes, it is taxable income because it is income. So yeah, flip, you're gonna pay some taxes on it. But that's going to help you with your cash flow. It's going to help you get additional income. So that's why people do it. You'll also notice flips are probably the most active, or it's a pretty dang active way to make money, right? So if you there's a lot of other ways that are a little more passive. A flip is a pretty active way to make money. You've got a lot of effort and a lot of money going into this project, right?
And competition.
And competition. Totally. Yep. So that's what a flip is good for. Gonna get you some more cash. Of course, I would say it comes with a lot of stress and a lot of risk, and that's okay. That's just part of it. Okay, let's go to another one. Long-term investing. So this would be like buy and hold long-term rentals. What do you think the benefit of owning one of those would be?
Well, I can tell you, everyone can hear me. I can tell you from personal experience. This has been my most successful investing. So over a period of time, you gain a lot of equity with very little to no headaches. In the beginning, I had headaches. So you do have the tenants, you do have the renters. There's a lot of different strategies around that. So once we figured all of that out, for me, it's been one of the best investments. So
Love it.
that helps answer your question.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of appreciation.
A lot of appreciation.
A lot of appreciation.
Somebody else is paying my mortgage and then some.
Yeah, totally.
I make monthly income. I also will be making a lot of money when I go to sell those properties.
Totally. So you're owing less and less on the balance of the mortgage, and your value is going up over the years. So
Yep.
huge one. Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned that flipping is a full-time job, and it is. I would say long-term investing is a part-time job.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, I'm just gonna plug this in and it works. You're gonna have issues. Even if you have a property manager, you have to manage your property manager. You're not like showing properties and dealing with all the things, but you still have to stay on top of your property manager because they're gonna try to get people out there to fix something that you get a quote and it's way too high, so you're gonna have to say, hey, get another quote. You're gonna get some renters who damage the property, like smoke meth or start a fire, which I've experienced in the past. People always kind of say, oh, you have some rentals, that's awesome. Like, yeah, but it's a part-time job. It's something you still have to invest in sometimes a weekly basis, just keeping on top of it. So
Totally. Love it. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so yeah, long-term rentals, yeah, it is going to have a lot of appreciation. It's going to have, I mean, it's going to have tax benefits, it's going to have principal reductions, all that stuff. It might even have cash flow. It probably has the least cash flow of all the things we're going to talk about, I think. It's not necessarily known for its cash flow, especially today, right? Especially with interest rates and our house prices and everything. It's a little harder to make them cash flow. And it's probably probably the easiest way as far as just the amount of effort that it takes. So, okay, cool. So it's going to help grow your equity, increase your net worth, get you additional cash flow. Let's talk short-term investing. So what are short-term rentals? What are short-term rentals going to do for your wealth? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Airbnb, short-term rental.
Well, sometimes the cash flow on those are, well, like they're significantly more than the mortgage.
Totally. Yeah. Jake says you could make, a lot of times you're going to have a lot higher income on those properties. So you may make a lot more cash flow, which I would totally agree with. I think additional cash flow is huge. So you actually are going to get more income. Of course, if you hold it long-term, like you rent it short-term, hold it long-term, that's going to continue to build your wealth because you're going to own more real estate that's going to continue going up in value. So, and you still have the principal reduction as well. What are the bad things about short-term?
One thing
Yeah.
Depending on where your short terms are, they can be your free travel destinations,
Yeah.
lodging and housing and stuff.
Yeah. So it can be like a vacation, like a built-in
for me,
vacation
I
fund.
want a short-term rental out in Anaheim for Disneyland.
Yeah,
That's ideal. It
totally.
would save me a lot of money and make time. But
Yep. Yeah, use a short-term rental is definitely easier to use. Like you're not typically going to use a flip or a long-term investment or a long-term rental. Probably not going to use it as much. So short-term.
we have another.
yeah, so other with Airbnbs, it's very competitive as well. So you got to realize that you're up against other Airbnbs, so you've got to like do the fine things. Just think you've gone to an Airbnb and is it clean? Is there a lot of kind of cool features? If it's by a beach, are there things in the closet that you can use at the beach? Is there like I know an agent here in the valley where he put steam showers in his Airbnbs because that put him one step up. He was the same price as the other Airbnbs, but he had to look better. So it's very competitive. I think it's probably in between a full-time job and a part-time job because you've got to kind of be on top of it, things like that. And so the number one thing I think with short-term rentals is your cleaner. You got to have a good cleaner who can be spot on because that's where a lot of the positive and negative comments come from is the cleaning. And so what he does is he tells his Airbnb clients, like, hey, rate my cleaner. And if his cleaner gets a 5-star, then he gives her like a $25 bonus. And so it kind of helps her be kind of invested as well. And she's, wants to do a good job. So, but again, depending on the location where you're at, it's very competitive.
All right.
I would like to add something to that as well. With the short-term rentals, I feel like, 1 month you could make a lot of money, next month you could not make the same amount. Where with the long-term rentals, people are going mainly on the contract, whether it's 1 year or 2 year or so. And so therefore you have that steady income that's coming in monthly where, again, with short-term rentals, 1 month you could be high, next month you could be riding low. I feel like that.
Totally. Yeah. Very variable for sure. Yep. Yep. Cool. And yeah, most of those, especially in a resort area, which a lot of these are going to be in, there's going to be a high season, a low season, and then somewhere in between. So it's a good point. Awesome. Yeah. And it takes a lot to manage. So obviously pretty well, most of these ways you're going to need a manager of some sort. And like Marcel said, there's still a lot that you're going to be responsible for, especially if you care about your investment. So those are just a few ways. Now, there's a few other ways I was going to throw out that I think are important ways that we can help people. Because ultimately, the way that I envision this is when you're meeting with a client and you're meeting with a client and they say that they want to be investing in real estate. You're going to start asking them questions and then be able to pair them with some investments that might work well for them. So one of the ones I wanted to cover real quick is wholesale. So mostly because people get very curious when they're out talking to people, and they find out that there's wholesale deals and, they're kind of curious about what that looks like. So let's go into wholesales for a minute. Wholesale is basically wholesale, which I think it's easier to understand is wholesale is like the opposite of retail. So wholesale, just like in any business, there's wholesale and there's retail. Is wholesale or retail going to be cheaper? If you buy something wholesale or retail, which one are you going to get the better deal on?
Wholesale.
Wholesale. Yep.
In
Yeah.
cost.
So wholesale is like the discounted price. It's like, the discounted price that they're giving. So wholesale basically means this. Wholesale mean in a real estate context means if you go out and find a seller who's interested in selling their property for a certain amount, then you can go, let's say that they're willing to sell their property for 325. Yeah, they're willing to sell their property for 325. And you think that house as it sits, not with any adjustments made or any, not without any updates made, but just you think you can buy it from 325 from that lady, and then you can sell it for say 375. So you sell it for 375 in today's market. So what you can do is you can actually find an investor, a flipper, basically, and you can go to them and say, hey, I got this lady to agree to sell me her house for 325. And now I'm going to sell it to you for 375 and I'm going to make the 50 grand in between. So it's an option that is legal. It is okay. You can do it. You can help your clients do it. There's nothing wrong with it. The biggest thing that I think, and what would be the benefit of doing a wholesale deal is that you get cash, because basically you just get the cash in between those two deals. You basically built in a margin and you take that cash home, and it's totally legal. It's totally fine. You do need to make sure that it's all done correctly, that it's all done the right way. But it's totally legal. The big thing that people get into trouble with is a lot of times they got such a good deal and they don't want to tell the seller what they're selling it for, right? So they buy it for 325. They don't want to tell the seller that they're selling it for 375. The seller has to know because they're the seller. If you actually buy it, close on it and everything, and then sell it, that's a different story. But yeah, if you're just going to take a fee on a wholesale deal, it has to be fully disclosed, and title companies will require it. They're not going to let you, they're not going to let you hide it from the seller. So that's really important. And I think it's just good to know what wholesale is, because if you go to investor seminars, if you watch a lot of things about it, people will talk about wholesales. And I think the easiest thing is for them to kind of say, oh, realtors don't understand that. They don't understand what that means. That's just real estate investor stuff that realtors, they just wouldn't understand. And so I think it's a good thing for you to understand, to know that it's out there, to know that it's an option, to know that it's not complicated. There's nothing really complicated about it. We don't always do it that way, but that's mostly because when we meet a seller who wants to sell their house and it's worth 375 in today's market, how much are we going to tell them to sell it for? Anyone? We're going to say, hey, you should sell it for 375, right? we're not going to be the first one that jumps up and says, oh, how about you sell it to me for 325 and then I'll sell it to someone else for 375 and I'll pocket the 50 grand. Usually we're going to try to get that for our sellers, right? So that's the main reason why we don't do that. And in a lot of cases, it can be totally legit. We have to be careful, especially if it's you that's doing it as a real estate agent. You have to be very careful because the public looks to us for value information. So if you tell them it's worth 375 and you say, hey, but I'll give you 325 now, but it's worth 375, and they do it, for the most part, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you say, geez, it's only worth 325 anyways, I'll give that to you right now if you want. And then, in reality, it's actually worth 375. That's where you can get in some big trouble doing these real estate deals. So does that make sense? I want to make sure I didn't lose you guys on that.
I was gonna say, I feel like it kind of goes against like fiduciary duties if you do it the first way that you said and you don't let them know. I feel like that would be super, super risky with your license.
Yep. I think that's very, very true. Yep. So especially if you represented them, it would be especially bad for fiduciary duty. If you don't represent them, it's not quite as bad, but there's still some implied agency and they still look to us as professionals. So you have to disclose, CYA, make sure everything's as clean as possible. And why would someone do that? Because there are some cases where they might actually agree to sell it to you for less. Why would they do that? It could be because they just think you're so great. Like, honestly, think of like a really close family friend. They might do that, right? Probably not very often. They might do it because they're in trouble. Maybe they're about to get foreclosed on, or maybe they, can't keep up with their payments, or maybe the house is in such poor shape that they can't sell it on the open market. They need to sell it to someone who can pay cash for it. So there's plenty of reasons why they would do it. The big thing to me is that it's all just disclosed. Do you have anything to add to that? Terry's our in-house broker here. So anything to add to that?
Not really. I feel like you covered it all.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so wholesale, that is an option. It can throw off cash. It's a totally fine option. Then development, I won't go way into that, but there are opportunities where you can buy properties. Say you buy a big piece of property. My team's got one going up pretty soon that's over in West Jordan, where it's like almost 2 acres of just property that needs to be developed. Sometimes people will buy it, they will paper it, which basically from what I understand, just means improve it. So you might subdivide it into different lots, or you might get the zoning changed so that it's more usable and worth more, and then go sell it after that. So development is definitely, or you could develop a whole neighborhood. It gets sold at all different stages, but anyways, development would be a good way. That would be a good way to get cash, and to own a lot of land. Okay, 2 more, even though I feel like I've been talking forever. So 2 more, BRRRR. So BRRR. Who knows what that is?
My mind goes to,
Rent.
What's that?
What do you say?
Oh, yeah, hit it, Jesse.
It's a buy, rent.
Buy, rent.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I was going to say, but
I
I like it though. Yeah, so really what it means is buy, renovate, refinance, rent. So it's not super crazy complicated, but it's basically if you find a house, especially if it needs some stuff, like it needs updating or it needs repair or whatever, you buy it at a good deal, you rehab it or fix it up, repair it, get it to the condition that you want, especially if like when you buy it, a lot of times it won't be able to be appraised. So you can't get a normal loan on it. So you get a hard money loan, you get it up to speed where it can actually be loaned on. Then you refinance it. So now you finance it 30 years, locked in, get really good terms on it. And then you rent it out. Now you've got a much nicer house that's going to rent for more. You've probably locked in your expenses, like your long-term costs on it, and now you keep it as a rental. So that's one way that you can kind of double dip on kind of like a flip where you're adding some value to the property, but it's also a long-term rental or a short-term rental for that matter, but
Maybe
can add value. Yeah.
a lot of times people will, maybe to add one more R to your BRR is raise rents. So you might have tenants in there, you might do one side and then raise the rent and then kick the other guys out, raise the rent. So that's another way, is buy it at low rents and then check out to market value.
Great point.
But it is a raised rent, that's 2 hours. 2 more hours.
Yeah, we're adding a lot of ours here, but yep, raise rents, which that's honestly the biggest problem I think in long-term rentals is people do not raise their rents. And I get it, and I'm not, I get it. And when they go to sell them and they have way undervalued rents, it's just very hard to capture their money back out of these properties. So I was just looking at fourplexes today and some duplexes and stuff. And it's just like people have crazy low rents, which I get why they do it. They want to keep their tenants happy and everything. But man, when you go to sell it, you don't want to be stuck with way low rents because people look at it, they say, like one I was looking at today, the rent on this place was going to be like, or the mortgage was going to be like $8,000. Then they're collecting like 5,500 with 20% down. It was $8,000 and they're collecting like $5,500 a month in rent. It's like, that's not going to work. So, and of course, every listing agent ever and seller will say, oh, those rents are way low. You could get them higher, but that's what everyone says. So you never know what the truth is. Just while we're talking about rentals, especially long-term rentals, one cool tool that we have access to in the coaching team, which I think is cool, is Rentometer. So whenever you're helping your clients with their investments, you want to be able to add value. And Rentometer is something that we subscribe to that basically will tell you what rents are going for in a certain area. So we take that to every listing appointment we go to. So when I go to a listing appointment, I take the Rentometer report. It'll show what other homes in the area are renting for. And that helps me so that we can have that conversation of, okay, do we want to keep the house or do we want to sell it? What are our options? And I can actually run through the numbers with them there. And it just looks cool because not that many people have access to that information. So it's kind of cool.
Do we all have access to that?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have your own login, but just send us send us whatever address you want. What you have to send is the address, the bedroom count, and the bathroom count. That's it. And then we'll send, so if you email that to utahprocoach@gmail.com, we will send you back the Rentometer report.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. So use that with your clients. Okay, and then the last one is house hacking. I don't like to call it house hacking just because I don't like things that are cliche that everyone talks about all the time. But I don't like the word house hacking, but I like the idea of house hacking. So house hacking basically just means that you're going to buy a house, live in it, maybe rent some of the rooms out. Sometimes people call that house hacking, but you're basically going to buy properties as your primary residence, and then you're going to turn them into rentals and buy another one. The benefit to this is if you buy any investment property, you're pretty much going to have to bring 20-25% down. There's a few programs out there that have offered 10% or some different terms, but by and large, you're going to want to plan on 20-25% on any investment property. So the nice thing about house hacking is basically that you don't have to be out of pocket as much. You can buy the house, if it was FHA, you could buy as low as 3.5% down. Conventional, you could go maybe 5% down or 3% down, or 10, of course, but it's just a lot cheaper. It's a lot lower down payment to get into them. So it does help you amass them a little bit quicker. If you're talking about buying $500,000 properties, every time you buy one, you have to put down $100K on it if you're going to put in 20%. So it just makes it slower, a little bit slower. So house hacking is cool. So a couple things when you're talking to your people, let's say they say, okay, I want to be able to build wealth. I want to own a lot of real estate as quick as possible. House hacking might be a good way to do it. If they already own a home, have them buy another one. And there's no law that I'm aware of that says you have to buy a bigger house than the one you already have. I mean, they could move down in home into something that's a little cheaper. And then the next year, buy another home. Next year, buy another home. If they haven't bought a house yet, and so this is like their first time home buyer consult mixed in with their investor consult. Basically, what I like to do is tell them, hey, you don't need to buy the most expensive house you can afford right now. Why don't we get you into something that's manageable? And we're going to start you kind of small. And then 12 months from now, we're going to buy something else. 12 months from then, we're going to buy something else. And you could just help them start amassing quite a few properties quickly. The biggest reason that I think people don't house hack, including myself, is because you move up too fast, like getting too big of a house, too nice of a house, like, which is really just lifestyle. Like, if you can keep people into something that's just a little bit smaller so that they can kind of just move up little by little and retain those homes, I think that's going to make a huge difference in their wealth down the road. So, yeah, please.
Very much. Sorry. No, sorry. I think it's great if someone could do that. I mean, one reason you might have mentioned like is owner occupied rate, and that's benefit. Two things. One, sometimes people are like, I don't have a large down payment. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I don't know how to do it. My first multi-door, I got in with a friend and we invested together. And that's nice where, yeah, I'm only getting half equity per se, but I'm also half the risk. We work together, and we've owned that property for a while, and it's been great. And so if you yourself or your clients kind of nervous about that, just, get someone that they trust. And if they even want to get an attorney to write an agreement up, they can, but that's one way to do it, is just get with someone you trust where you both have the same goal, long-term goal. The one duplex I mentioned with that friend, I had a long-term goal and I always told him I had a long-term goal, but then he didn't, but it worked out because again, I could 1030 that one to another property and it's been great. Also, I think if you can, like buy a duplex, live on one side, rent out the other. And then when you go to the next move, it's not too crazy because you're going from a duplex to a single family home. Or go to a fourplex, duplex, single family home. I mean, or fourplex, duplex, townhome, single family home. You can do that, but I think that's what I'm preaching to my kids is that, hey, this is where you need to start. Live on one side, rent out the other. When I first bought my first house, I bought one with the mother-in-law. I lived in the basement and rented out the upstairs, and we did that for probably 3 or 4 years. So it worked out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, love it. So I think just that extra discipline of that's really where we can help people. We can help coach them into, okay, starting a little bit smaller, or even like he says, starting with a fourplex or a duplex or something. Start with something where your living situation may not be your absolute favorite, but then you can just kind of move up and acquire properties. So that's a great way for us to build wealth. And that's a great way for us to help our clients build wealth, is to show them how to do that. One thing you do, you are supposed to live in it for a year. You're supposed to intend to live in it for a year. So that's the main thing that's slowing you down. There is a difference between living there for a year and intending to live there for a year, which is, something major could change. But there is a huge difference in saying you're going to live there for a year and intending to live there for a year too. So that's a big deal. Now we're talking like mortgage fraud, and it can be a big deal. You don't want to be any part of that as the buyer or as the agent, really. So don't get involved in any of that stuff. And buying one house a year is pretty dang cool. So I think you'd have a hard time getting someone to write a mortgage within 12 months of buying your last property anyways. So that's kind of your deal. And I should say real quick, for the most part, they cap it at about 10 properties per person. So 10 properties per person, that's like Fannie, Freddie,
Basically 10 loans per person.
Yeah, 10 loans per person. So people move them around. Yes, if you're married, you can probably get away with double that. Then you get into portfolios and all different things. So there's still products, but these easier loans to get that just, where you can really start to amass some properties are primarily limited to 10 per person. So
I did a really cool seller finance class that a lot of people in there were like talking about how they had like 15 rental properties and how you could really use seller financing to do a lot of these things if you just have the information and tell people about it. So that's also a cool option. But I was gonna ask you if that rent thing, if you could also do it on like a rental basement. Like if I found a property that was a house hack and had a basement, could I get like the value of like the basement rental from that rent thing?
totally.
Oh, just on a rent. I think she means on the rent-a-meter report.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't, not really. Like you could, like it'll let you choose. So we can run for a house or for a condo, like a condo apartment. So, I mean, you could try to run it for a condo or an apartment and see what that looked like. I mean, it would get, the nice thing is it would give you info. It's not going to spit it out and give you a number, but it'll give you some stuff to compare it to.
I was
And you
gonna say, there's lots of ways to go about it. I know you can like look at what other places are renting for and stuff, but I just was wondering if that would help. So it sounds like you can get some good details from it either way.
totally. Yep. See you, Marcel.
Do you want to
Yep.
throw in there that Marcel does do a lot of seller financing?
Yep. And Marcel says he will help you with your seller financing deals. So if you already have 10 properties and you just, to get your 11th, you have to have seller financing. Marcel's your guy. Now there's so many good opportunities with seller financing. So definitely keep an eye out for those. Okay, just a couple quick things I want to touch on because I think they're pretty cool. I ran a bunch of numbers. So I ran some numbers. So rents on average since 1980 have gone up 8.86%. Is that crazy? So high, right? That's awesome.
It's awesome.
I guess it depends who you are.
Well, yeah.
No, we're talking building wealth. So I'm with you. So 8.86% every year. So I just ran it. Okay, let's say that your rent this year is $2,000. Next year it will be 2,064. Sorry, that's not accurate. Okay, you start at 2,000. A year later, it's going to go to 2,172. 5 years later, 3,021, and 10 years later, 4,563. Like it moves quick. So these numbers move really quick. So it's just something that's really good to keep an eye on. Those are great numbers to give to give your clients just to show them what the costs of waiting truly look like. That means that so based on those increases in rent, after the first year, you would save, because of reduced rent, you save 2,064 a month just in rent that you save, or 2,064 a year that you save from rent. After like the third year, you're saving 6,739 every year just from savings from rent. And on the fifth year, you save $12,252. So you're making $1,000 a month on the fact that you bought a home. So that's just a huge amount. When you see that, homeowners are worth, 40 times what a renter is, this is why it moves quick. And then one other thing, just to give you a little bit of info on it, is appreciation. So appreciation, let's say it's at 4%, which is pretty conservative. Let's say 4% on a $500,000 house, 4% is $20,000. So every year you're making $20,000, which is, what's $20,000 monthly? It's like $1,600 a month or something like that. Like it's pretty big. Especially compared to your mortgage. Mortgage on a $500,000 house is what? Probably like $3,000 today. So you pay $3,000 and you're getting $1,600 in appreciation. That's crazy. And then a certain chunk of that is going to pay off your loan. So that's another big chunk. Like it's a pretty good deal, honestly. The 30-year loan is pretty amazing. So a $500,000 house after 5 years of appreciating at 4% is now worth $608,000. So 5 years, you made $108,000. After 10 years, it's worth $740,000. So after 25 years, 1.33 million. After 30 years, 1.62 million. So it's just It goes up really big. One other thing, when you're calculating that, you can also look at your cash on cash return. So if you buy a house with 3.5% down, so let's say you buy a $500,000 house with only 3.5% down, which is 17,500. That's if you look at just the cash that you put into it and how much you're gaining every year, you're gaining 114% on your money. If you put down 5%, which would be 25 grand, you're making 80% on your money year over year. And if you put 25% down, so if you put down a big down payment, you're still like bought it as an investment property, you're still making 16% on your money year over year. All of those numbers, compare that to investing in the stock market. Would you take 114 or 80% or 16%? I would take any one of those compared to the stock market. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's just some of the numbers to kind of back you up when you're talking to people. And remember that back you up is like the worst way I could word that, because the truth is what we're doing is trying to fight for our people. We're telling them, hey, you have opportunities to take advantage of and have a better financial future for you and your family if you take advantage of this. And, so it's really, you're taking a stand for them and trying to get them to do something that's going to impact their future in a huge way. So I just think it's a place where we never want to be like that. I'm not giving you info to back you up because you guys are in a fight. I'm giving you info basically to inspire them to want to get in and make a difference for them and for their family. So this is real estate wealth that will last generations if they do it right. So what comments or questions you guys have? Or Terry, you probably have anything to add to
No,
that?
I just love it. I love it. I love seeing it, the numbers. I love seeing, and I personally live it. So I have, several investment properties. So I can speak, I look at the numbers and I'm like, yep, that's pretty
Mhm.
true. So I just love it. And I just think if we can be that excited and confident and go out and talk to other people about it. And as a script, I would always say it's easy for us to say, hey, do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell real estate? I think it's super important to add in the word invest. So do you know anybody who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Because that is going to get those people that aren't looking to make a move go, oh, well, I want to invest. What about this? So I would just feel very confident and just start putting the word invest in everything that you do and everything that you say. You'll be able to pick up more clients.
Love it. Love it. Who else has comments or questions, follow-up questions on that? Do you feel a little more prepared to have those conversations? Was this helpful?
I mean, I say yes.
Okay. We're
Feels that
going.
way for me too.
Oh, good. Love it. Yep. And Jesse teaches these classes, so that says a lot. Yeah, really, you can lean on your lenders to get you a lot of these numbers, show you a lot of the details, and really they'll go direct to your client. If you have a client that wants to do this, even if it's the same thing, if they're buying their primary residence or if they're buying investment properties, like it's the same conversation. Do you want to build wealth through real estate? There's different ways that you can see what's the cost of not doing it and what's the benefit of actually investing into real estate. So I know him and the Lassick team, they're just super excited to meet with our people and show them the opportunity, and they're very good at it. So if you need to do a combo appointment with them, that would totally be fine, and they'll be there to back you up with numbers. Cool. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, we appreciate you guys. Let us know how we can support you this week. Lots of good stuff. Keep an eye on your emails. We got a full calendar. Ignite, the 4 to 6 Ignite, the one that's Zoom only, is up again tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday, it's going to be taught by a nationwide, just famous trainer of Ignite, Terry Scheitauer. It's going to be great. Really, it will be a cool class. So 4 to 6 on Thursday, but we have those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All good stuff. We're going to be lead generating at Utah Realtors, the Cottonwood Heights office on Wednesday. And yeah, just stay close. Let us know how we can help you. I know a lot of you guys have been busy out there. Okay, see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.
Yep, see you, man.